First contact and the distress call. The soft ping from monitoring station 6 broke the monotonous hum of Europa Outpost's command center. Lieutenant Commander Elena Reyes glanced up from her datapad, expecting another false positive from the Deep Space Array. After 15 months stationed on Jupiter's icy moon, she'd grown accustomed to disappointment. "Something interesting, Torres?" she asked, setting down her third cup of synthetic coffee. Communications Officer Miguel Torres frowned at his console. "Not sure, Commander. Signals coming from HD 85,512, 50 light-years out. Pattern suggests artificial origin." Reyes pushed away from her station and drifted across the low-gravity chamber. Europa Outpost was humanity's furthest military installation, officially designated as an early warning system for asteroids and solar flares. Unofficially, it was listening for something else entirely. "How long has it been transmitting?" she asked, studying the wavelength patterns on Torres' display. "Based on signal degradation, approximately 8 months. It's been repeating the same sequence every 39 seconds. Reyes tapped her wrist terminal. "Get Dr. Tanaka up here. If this is what I think it is, we're going to need him." 20 minutes later, Dr. Akira Tanaka floated into the command center, his lanky frame awkward in the low gravity despite 3 years stationed on Europa. The xenolinguist's eyes widened as Torres showed him the signal pattern. "It's structured," Tanaka whispered, his fingers dancing across the display. "Definitely not natural. The mathematics underlying this, it's using prime numbers as a foundation." He looked up at Reyes, excitement evident in his expression. "This is it, Commander. First contact." Reyes nodded, maintaining her professional composure despite her racing heart. "Can you decode it?" "Give me 12 hours," Tanaka replied, already immersed in the pattern's analysis. It took him 8. The command staff gathered in the briefing room as Tanaka projected a 3-dimensional representation of the signal. "It's not just a greeting," Tanaka explained, manipulating the hologram. "It's a distress call, and it contains data, images, coordinates, and what appears to be a simplified language primer." "Show us," Reyes ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying a series of grainy images. They showed aquatic creatures with 6 limbs and elongated heads, moving through what appeared to be vast underwater cities. The structures were elegant, organic in design, suggesting an advanced civilization in harmony with its environment. Then the images changed. Different creatures appeared, tall, insectoid beings with chitinous exoskeletons and multiple compound eyes. The next sequences were difficult to watch. The insectoids attacking the aquatic cities, capturing the 6-limbed beings, loading them into massive containers. "They're being hunted," Security Chief Vasilit said grimly. "Systematically." "Not just hunted," Tanaka replied, his voice tight. "Harvested. Look at this sequence." The final images showed the captives in laboratory settings, being dissected, their body parts organized in containers. Other images displayed what appeared to be food processing facilities. A heavy silence fell over the room. "They found our probes," Tanaka continued after a moment. "The signal incorporates elements of the mathematical sequences we've been broadcasting for the past century. They're specifically calling to us for help." Reyes studied the galactic coordinates included in the message. "They're 50 light-years away. Even with our most advanced propulsion systems, it would take us decades to reach them. Unless," Chief Engineer Okafor said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. They all knew what he was suggesting. "We need to contact Earth Command," Reyes decided. "This goes beyond our authority." Within hours, the transmission was relayed back to Earth, encoded with the highest security classification. For 3 days, Europa Outpost continued monitoring the signal while awaiting instructions. On the 4th day, Reyes received a priority transmission ordering her to establish a direct quantum link with the United Earth Defense Council. The faces of 12 council members appeared on the command center's main display. Admiral Wei Chen, head of the UEE, addressed her directly. Commander Reyes, we've analyzed the data you sent. Our experts concur with Dr. Tanaka's assessment. This is a legitimate distress call from an intelligent species under attack by another. What are your orders, Admiral? Reyes asked. The Council has voted, Admiral Chen replied. After 50 years of peace, after swearing never again to use the technologies that nearly destroyed us during the last war, we've made a decision. He paused, his expression solemn. We're activating Project Prometheus. Murmurs spread through the command center. Project Prometheus was classified beyond top secret, but rumors had circulated for years about experimental weapons and ships developed after the last war, then locked away, deemed too dangerous to ever use. Sir, Reyes said carefully, are you certain? Project Prometheus was shut down for a reason. We've debated this for 3 days, Commander, the Admiral replied. Some argued it's not our fight. Others said we lack the right to intervene in alien affairs. But in the end, one question prevailed. What kind of species would we be if we ignored a plea for help when we have the means to respond? Fleet Admiral Hernandez, seated beside Chen, leaned forward. Commander Reyes, you're being reassigned. You'll command the advance team. Coordinates are being transmitted to you now. Reyes studied the incoming data. Mars Phobos base. That's been decommissioned for decades. Officially, yes, Hernandez replied. Report there in 72 hours. You'll be briefed on Operation Vengeance upon arrival. As the transmission ended, Reyes turned to her officers, their faces showing a mixture of shock and determination. What just happened? Torres asked. Dr. Tanaka answered softly. Humanity just decided to go to war. 3 days later, Reyes stood in a massive underground hangar beneath the surface of Phobos, Mars's larger moon. Before her loomed a ship unlike any she'd ever seen, sleek, black, and massive, its hull composed of materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The UES Nemesis, Admiral Hernandez said, stepping up beside her. Our most advanced warship, built with technologies developed after the last war then sealed away. It incorporates reality-warping drive systems, autonomous combat eye, and weapons that I pray you never have to use. How is this possible? Reyes asked. We're still using fusion drives on our best ships. This is generations beyond that. Necessity drove innovation during our darkest hours, Hernandez replied. After we nearly destroyed ourselves, we realized some technologies were too dangerous to deploy openly. But we didn't destroy them. We hid them, hoping they'd never be needed. He handed her a command chip. Congratulations, Captain Reyes. Nemesis is yours. Admiral, we're talking about a journey of 50 light years, even with advanced technology. The Nemesis doesn't use conventional propulsion, Captain. It uses what we call spaceful technology. Essentially, it creates a temporary wormhole. The journey will take 17 days. Reyes stared at the ship in disbelief. 17 days to travel 50 light years. With a crew of how many? 250. The best we have, including Dr. Tanaka. You'll need his linguistic expertise. Hernandez's expression grew grim. Your mission is straightforward. Assess the situation, rescue any survivors if possible, and deliver a message to the aggressors. What message? The Admiral's eyes hardened. That humanity does not tolerate genocide, regardless of who's committing it or who the victims are. That if they want prey, they've just found apex predators. As crews prepared the Nemesis for launch, Dr. Tanaka joined Reyes on the observation deck. I've been studying the signal further, he said. The aquatic species calls themselves the Mirians. The attackers are known as the Kryvax. Any more intelligence on their capabilities? The Mirians are peaceful, primarily focused on art, agriculture, and science. The Kryvax appear to be expansionist predators who view other sentient species as nothing more than resources. Reyes watched as massive plasma cannons were loaded onto the Nemesis. How many Mirians are left? Based on their transmission, Their population has been reduced by approximately 60% over the past 3 years. Without intervention, they'll be extinct within 2 more. Then we have no time to waste, Rice said. Prepare your team, Doctor. We launch in 6 hours. As the crew boarded the Nemesis, Rice entered the bridge and approached the captain's chair. Above it hung a simple metal plaque, inscribed with words attributed to an ancient Earth philosopher. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. She took her seat and activated the ship's systems. The bridge illuminated with holographic displays as the ship's AI came online. Greetings, Captain Rice, a calm voice said. I am HFY, the Autonomous Tactical Hybrid Enhanced Neural Architecture. I will be assisting you during Operation Vengeance. Hello, HFY, Rice replied. Let's go save a species. As the massive doors above the hangar slid open, revealing the starry expanse beyond, Reyes couldn't help but wonder if humanity was making the right choice. They were about to reveal their most terrifying technologies to the galaxy for the first time. But as the images of the suffering Myrians flashed through her mind, she knew there was no other ethical choice. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself once, but perhaps the weapons they had created could now serve a greater purpose, justice for those who couldn't defend themselves. Prepare for spacefold, she ordered. Target, HD 85,512 system. The Nemesis rose silently from its decades-long slumber, humanity's wrath awakening to answer a desperate plea from the stars. The SOS that triggered humanity's most terrifying. Operation Vengeance. The UES Nemesis hung in the darkness of deep space, its black hull absorbing what little light reached this far from HD 85,512's yellow star. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the main view screen as it displayed high-resolution images of the third planet, a world of vast oceans and scattered archipelagos. Passive scans complete. Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander John, her tactical officer. We're detecting multiple vessels in orbit, approximately 30 kilometers in length. Energy signatures suggest advanced propulsion systems and weapons arrays. Life signs? Rise asked. Billions on the surface, concentrated in the oceans. The orbital vessels contain approximately 20,000 life forms each, with distinct biosignatures matching our data on the Kryvax. Dr. Tanaka approached from his monitoring station. Captain, I've been analyzing transmissions between the ships. The Kryvax appear to operate on a hive-like social structure. Those vessels aren't just ships. They're mobile processing facilities. Reyes' expression hardened. Processing facilities for the Myrians. Yes, based on communication patterns, they've established harvesting colonies on all major landmasses, with regular collection operations in the oceans. Athena's holographic form materialized beside the captain's chair, a simple blue humanoid silhouette. Captain, I've completed tactical analysis. The Kryvax vessels possess weaponry comparable to Earth's 22nd century technology. While formidable, they are significantly outmatched by Nemesis capabilities. Thank you, Athena, Rise replied. She turned to her communications officer. Any response to our hails? None, Captain. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies for 2 hours. Rise nodded grimly. Then we moved to Phase 2. Combat stations. Throughout the massive ship, warning lights pulsed as crew members prepared for engagement. The Nemesis had spent the last 15 days in transit, giving Reyes time to train her crew on systems that had previously existed only in classified documents. Launch reconnaissance drones, she ordered. I want detailed scans of the largest harvesting facility on the surface. Within minutes, the bridge displays filled with images from the stealth drones. What they showed made several crew members turn away in disgust. Massive facilities had been constructed near the coastlines, with automated collection vessels dragging nets through the oceans. Captured Myrians were sorted by size and apparent health, then moved through processing chambers where they were systematically dissected, their organs and tissues separated for preservation. My God, whispered Commander Vassiliev. "They're treating them like fish." "No," Rise corrected, her voice cold. "They're treating them like cattle." Athena analyze the facility defenses and identify critical infrastructure. Analysis complete, the AI responded almost instantly. Recommended targets highlighted. Red markers appeared across the facility schematics. "Dr. Tanaka," Rise said, "can you broadcast a warning to any Mirians in the vicinity of that facility? Tell them to move as far away as possible within the next hour." "Working on it now, Captain." Rise tapped her communication panel. "Engineering, status of the primary weapon systems." Chief Engineer Okafor's voice came through. "Kinetic strike systems online. Dimensional disruptors charged and ready. All weapons show green, Captain." "Very good." Rise stood and addressed her bridge crew. "In 50 years of peace, humanity has never revealed these weapons to anyone, not even to ourselves. Today, we use them not for conquest or revenge, but for justice. Remember your training, and remember why we're here." She turned to her tactical officer. "Target the primary processing facility with a low-yield kinetic strike. I want a demonstration of our capabilities, something the Kryvax can't ignore." "Target locked, Captain." "Fire." The Nemesis shuddered slightly as it launched a single projectile. A tungsten rod accelerated to near-relativistic speeds. On the view screen, they watched as the rod streaked toward the planet, becoming a blazing meteor as it entered the atmosphere. The impact was precisely calculated, striking the main power generation facility of the harvesting complex. The explosion was massive but contained, destroying the facility while minimizing damage to the surrounding area. "Direct hit," John reported. "Target destroyed." "Now we have their attention," Rice said. "Any response?" "Multiple vessels changing course, Captain," John replied. 3 Kryvax ships breaking orbit, on intercept trajectory. Time to contact: 7 minutes. Open a channel, all frequencies, with translation matrix active. Dr. Tanaka quickly configured the communication system. "Channel open, Captain." Rice stood tall, her voice firm, as she delivered humanity's message. "Attention Kryvax vessels. I am Captain Alina Reyes of the United Earth vessel Nemesis. We have witnessed your systematic genocide of the Mirian species and have determined this to be an unacceptable violation of sentient rights. You will cease all harvesting operations immediately and withdraw from this system, or you will face the full military response of humanity." For several long moments, there was no reply. Then a harsh, clicking sound emerged from the speakers, translated by the ship's computers into English. "Unknown vessel, your interference is noted. The species you reference is designated as Resource Bioform 347, a non-sentient protein source. Depart this system immediately or be classified as combatant." Reyes exchanged glances with her senior officers before responding. "We have reviewed extensive evidence that confirms the Mirians are a fully sentient, technologically advanced civilization. Your classification is rejected. This is your final warning. Cease operations and withdraw." The reply was immediate. "Classification rejected. Preparing to neutralize combatant." On the tactical display, the 3 approaching Kryvax vessels began powering weapon systems. "They've made their choice," Rice said quietly. "Athena analyze their weapons capabilities and recommend countermeasures." Analysis complete, the AI responded. "The Kryvax vessels are employing directed energy weapons and missile systems. Traditional defensive measures are sufficient." "Very well. Shields at maximum. Prepare dimensional disruptors for defensive use only." As the Kryvax ships came within range, they fired simultaneously, brilliant beams of energy lancing through space toward the Nemesis. The ship's advanced shields absorbed the attack without strain. "No damage," reported Zhang. "Shields holding at 97%. The ships fired again, this time launching dozens of missiles. The Nemesis point defense systems activated automatically, destroying most of the projectiles before they could reach the shields. They're testing our defenses, Rise observed. Let's show them what they're dealing with. Target their weapons arrays with precision kinetic strikes. Minimal damage, maximum effect. Targets locked, Captain. Fire. 3 more tungsten rods launched from the Nemesis, each striking a Kryvax vessel with surgical precision. The impacts disabled their primary weapon systems without destroying the ships. Direct hits on all targets, Zhang reported. Their weapon systems are offline. Dr. Tanaka looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting massive communication bursts between the damaged ships and the rest of the fleet. Based on the patterns, I believe they're alarmed. As they should be, Commander Vasiliev muttered. On the tactical display, the remaining Kryvax vessels in orbit began changing position, moving to form a defensive formation. They're preparing for a coordinated attack, Zhang said. All 13 remaining vessels are powering weapons. Reyes nodded. I expected as much. Athena, tactical assessment. The Kryvax fleet possesses sufficient firepower to eventually overwhelm our shields through sustained bombardment. Recommended course of action. Preemptive strike using dimensional disruptors to neutralize multiple targets simultaneously. Reyes hesitated. The dimensional disruptors were among the most terrifying weapons ever developed by humanity. Devices that temporarily warped the fabric of space-time itself, causing matter to collapse in on itself. Captain, HFY continued, based on current analysis of Kryvax behavior patterns, they will not withdraw regardless of demonstrated force. Their social structure does not recognize the concept of surrender when resource acquisition is at stake. Rise made her decision. Target the 6 largest vessels with dimensional disruptors, minimal yield, focused effect. We want to disable, not destroy if possible. Targets locked, Captain. Fire. 6 barely visible distortions emerged from the Nemesis, rippling through space toward the Kryvax fleet. Where they touched the massive ships, space itself seemed to fold. Metal and composite materials crumpled like paper as localized gravity wells formed within the ship's structures. 6 of the 13 vessels were rendered inoperable in seconds, their systems crushed beyond repair, though careful targeting had left crew compartments largely intact. Silence fell over the Nemesis bridge as the crew witnessed the awesome and terrible power of their own weapons. Status of the Kryvax crew. Rise asked quietly. Zhang checked her sensors. Life signs present but diminished. Approximately 70% survival rate on affected vessels. Open a channel to the remaining ships. This time, the response was immediate. A different voice, higher in pitch and more urgent. Human vessel, we request cessation of hostilities. Your weapons technology is unexpected. Withdraw your forces from this system immediately, Rise demanded. All harvesting operations will cease, and all Mirian captives will be released. Impossible. The Kryvax Collective requires the resource. Rise cut them off. The resource you speak of are sentient beings with the right to exist. Your needs do not supersede theirs. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. Any vessel remaining after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. She signaled for the channel to be closed. Captain, Dr. Tanaka said urgently, I'm detecting unusual activity in the oceans. The Mirians are singing. Their communication patterns have changed dramatically since our attack on the harvesting facility. Can you translate? Tanaka worked his console for a moment. It's not precise, but they appear to be celebrating. They're calling us the saviors from beyond. For the first time since the mission began, Rise allowed herself a small smile. Let's earn that title. Prepare landing parties with medical and engineering personnel. I want teams on the surface within 2 hours to begin relief operations. As the Nemesis crew mobilized for humanitarian efforts, the Kryvax fleet began a hasty withdrawal. Orbital scans showed harvesting facilities being abandoned, collection vessels retreating to the main ships. 12 hours later, Reyes stood on a beach alongside Dr. Tanaka and a contingent of Earth personnel. Before them, in the shallow waters, gathered hundreds of myriads, their six-limbed forms moving with grace despite obvious signs of trauma and malnourishment. A larger myriad, its skin marked with intricate patterns that Tanaka had identified as denoting leadership status, approached the shoreline. Using a translation device, Dr. Tanaka facilitated communication. "The collective of elders extends gratitude beyond measure," the device translated. "When we sent our call into the darkness, we had little hope. For 3 cycles, the devourers have hunted us, reduced our numbers from billions to millions. You arrived when all seemed lost." Reyes stepped forward. "We received your distress call and could not ignore it. Humanity has known its own dark times, its own struggles against extinction. We will not stand by while another sentient species faces annihilation." The Myrian elder's large, expressive eyes blinked slowly. "Your weapons, they are beyond our understanding. You could dominate our world, yet you offer aid instead. That's not who we are," Reyes replied simply. "We developed those weapons during our own wars, nearly destroyed ourselves with them. We sealed them away, hoping never to use them again. But when we heard your call, you unleash your most terrible creations to save strangers." The elder finished. "This speaks more of your nature than any words could." As the meeting concluded, plans were established for ongoing protection and recovery efforts. The Nemesis would remain in orbit while additional Earth vessels were dispatched with humanitarian supplies and defensive capabilities. Later, back on the Nemesis, Reyes stood alone in her quarters, staring at the blue-green planet below. Athena's holographic form appeared beside her. "The first refugee transports have been organized, Captain," the AI reported. "Earth has agreed to provide temporary sanctuary for 5,000 Myrian representatives, while their homeworld is secured." "Thank you, HFY. Captain, may I ask a question?" "Of course." "The weapon systems I control were developed at great cost, then sealed away because humanity feared their potential for destruction. Yet today they saved an entire species. Does this alter their moral classification?" Reyes considered the question carefully. "The weapons themselves aren't moral or immoral, HFY. It's the purpose for which they're used. Today, we use them in defense of those who couldn't defend themselves. That doesn't make the weapons less terrible. It just means we found a purpose worthy of their power." As the Nemesis maintained its vigil over the recovering Myrian world, word of humanity's intervention spread across nearby star systems. The message was clear. A new force had emerged from a seemingly insignificant yellow star, a species that possessed terrifying weapons yet chose to use them not for conquest, but for justice. In the vast, often cruel expanse of the galaxy, humanity had defined itself not by its capacity for destruction, but by its willingness to stand between the predator and the prey. The SOS that had traveled 50 light-years had done more than save the Myrians. It had revealed humanity's true nature to the stars.